crossing into the lands of Middle-earth as the moon first rose into the sky, Fingolfin led his followers south through the lands of Lamoth, where they were suddenly attacked by an orc army from Angband. Fighting the Battle of Lamoth, the wary, unprepared elves managed to claim victory when Fingolfin's youngest son Argon led a mad charge through enemy ranks to kill the orc commander before he was surrounded and slain. Grieving the loss of a son, Fingolfin's people marched into the lands of Hithlum as the sun rose into the sky above, beginning the years of the First Age. Fearing this newly arrived Noldor host, Morgoth retreated to Angband, and so Fingolfin set up camp in Hithlum, where he met with the sons of Feanor and their followers, uniting their strength while remaining divided into opposing factions, as too much bad blood remained between them. Yet in the midst of all these hostilities, Fingon, eldest son of Fingolfin, had only one thing on his mind: saving the life of his close friend and cousin Maedhros, eldest son of Feanor. Shortly after the death of their father, the sons of Feanor were invited to meet with Morgoth and discuss terms of peace. Realizing it was a trap, Maedhros arrived with an armed force, but the Dark Lord's retinue was larger, defeating the elves while capturing the Noldor prince. As the other sons of Feanor were unwilling to negotiate for their brother's life, knowing the enemy would never keep his word, Morgoth tortured Maedhros by hanging him from the mountain Thangorodrim. Risking his life, Fingon underwent a valiant quest, and with the help of the great eagle Thorondor, found and reached his cousin. Unable to open the steel band around his wrist, Fingon cut off his hand and brought him to safety. The Great Eagles did not often help the children of Eru, but did sometimes interfere in moments of great peril, acting on behalf of Manwë, king of the Valar, serving as his scouts and agents. Though Manwë was upset with the Noldor for leaving Valinor, he still had pity for them, allowing his eagles to help them from time to time. Grateful to his cousin for saving his life, and eager to make peace between their peoples, Maedhros, heir to Feanor, renounced his claim to leadership, allowing Fingolfin to become the unified ruler of all Noldor in Middle-earth. Succeeding in making peace and strengthening the bonds between their factions, Maedhros also inadvertently laid seeds of resentment and future conflict, as his brothers were upset to be passed over in the line of succession. Over the next 6 decades, the Noldor contacted King Thingol of Doriath, and with his permission, established themselves across Beleriand, leaving Fingolfin and his followers to settle in the west, while eastern lands were granted to the sons of Feanor. Believing the elves were sufficiently lulled into a false sense of security, Morgoth launched the Dagor Bragollach, or Glorious Battle, in 60 FA, sending his massive orc armies flooding into the Pass of Sirion, Dorthonion, and Maglor's Gap. Yet the Noldor remained vigilant and were ready for battle, with High King Fingolfin taking charge of their defenses in the west, while Maedhros organized his people in the east, driving back the enemy until once again locked away in their impenetrable fortress. Setting up a large-scale permanent siege of Angband, a long period of relative peace followed, allowing the Noldor to expand their settlements, creating great, wondrous cities in memory of what they remembered from the paradise of the Undying Lands. Yet as they thrived, Morgoth recuperated, making new plans for war. Though no large-scale conflicts occurred for the next 400 years, some smaller battles were fought, like the assault on Hithlum in 155 FA, when an army of orcs tried to assail Hithlum from the west, but were thoroughly defeated by the king's son Fingon. Despite suffering a defeat, this moment served as a turning point for Morgoth, who now realized orcs alone were insufficient to take on his Noldor enemies. Bringing the dragon race into existence, his first creation was Glaurung, the father of dragons, a mighty being that breathed fire and could manipulate a target's mind. Unable to contain his desire for battle, Glaurung disobeyed orders to remain hidden, and left Angband in 260 FA, breaking the siege and pushing the elves from Ardgarlan. Yet Glaurung was still young and his scales not yet fully formed, meaning that when the elves organized a counterattack, they shot many arrows into the father of dragons, who fled back into Angband. A century later, in 375 FA, an army of orcs assailed the Haladin in Thargelion, a faction of humans migrating west into Beleriand. Defending themselves until the son of Feanor, Carantir, could arrive with elven reinforcements, the humans realized this area was too dangerous to settle and continued their search for a new homeland. In 402 FA, another group of orcs tried to make their way through the Pass of Aglon, but were repelled by the sons of Feanor, Maedhros, and Maglor, as well as the House of Beor, another human faction migrating west. Grateful for their assistance, the House of Beor were allowed to settle the lands of Ladros. By 422 FA, High King Fingolfin suspected it was time to finish their war with Morgoth, but the other Noldor were content with their prosperous lives, unwilling to risk a large-scale conflict. Yet by ignoring their ruler, they left themselves vulnerable to the surprise attack planned by the Dark Lord in 455 FA. Launching the Dagor Bragollach, or Battle of Sudden Flame, rivers of fire burst forth from Thangorodrim, clearing Ardgallen, which was renamed Anfauglith, allowing the Dark Lord's armies to descend upon the northern Noldor realms. In the east, the sons of Feanor, Celegorm and Curufin were defeated in the Pass of Aglon, while Maglor lost Lothlan and Maglor's Gap. Glaurung, meanwhile, burned the lands near the River Gelion, as orcs defeated Caranthir to take Targelion, Lake Heliborn, and his fortress in Mount Rerir. Yet some good news at last came when Maedhros, with the help of Maglor's reinforcements, successfully defended his fortress of Himring. Moving west, the lands of Dorthonion were lost when the nephews of the High King, Angrod and Aignor, were killed in the fighting, as was their human ally, Chieftain Bragollach from the House of Beor. Seeking to reinforce Dorthonion, High King Fingolfin and his son Fingon led armies from Heathlum, but were immediately defeated as they tried to pass the mountains and forced into retreat, losing their human ally, Chieftain Hador of the House of Hador. Finally, there were the reinforcements, led by King Finrod from Nargothrond, the elder brother of Angrod and Aignor, but they too were defeated before arriving, attacked in the Pass of Sirion. Finrod himself would have been killed, if not for his human ally Barahir, the brother of Chieftain Bragollach from the House of Beor, who cut his way to the king, ensuring his escape from harm. Having lost the battle, Morgoth's forces now held much of the north, with survivors forced to flee and take refuge in other realms. Fortunately for the High King, they were able to keep the enemy from conquering Hithlum, but Dorthonion, Ardgallen, and Ladros were entirely gone, save for a small resistance force of humans, led by Chieftain Barahir, fighting a guerrilla war in their homeland of Ladros. Much of the northeast was also lost, save for Himring, meaning the years of prosperity and respite from the War of the Great Jewels were over, leaving only a period of terrible conflict in which the Noldor and their allies fought for their very survival. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Ishmam Ahmed of Shamiriana, Sir Bob of the Bowie, Torque Frostbite, and the Emperor of Mankind. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can get early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.